Well, thanks, Jason, for joining me today. To start us off, do you want to introduce yourself for a minute?
Sure. My name is Jason Shatsky. I am the co-founder and CEO of TicketRev. We're the first fan-driven platform for live event tickets. What that means is via our technology, we allow fans to name their own price for upcoming games and concerts. So building a more fan-friendly way to find tickets to your favorite live events, both through our marketplace and a white label integration for teams. Based in South Florida, I've been running TicketRev for just over 2 years, or maybe more than almost 3 years at this point. Graduated from Babson College, a small entrepreneurial school just outside of Boston in 2021. Yeah, excited to talk more here.
Cool. And is TicketRev live across like all the sporting platforms like NBA, NFL, MLB?
Yeah, you can download the TicketRev app on the App Store or Google Play, and any city in the country is available.
Cool. And when you were getting this company off the ground, I saw that you went through the Soma Fellows program, and I think you participated in the second cohort, which was from November to January 2023. Is that correct?
Yeah, November 22 to January 23. Yep.
Cool. And why did you apply to the Soma Fellows program? What stood out about that program?
Yeah, so I had discovered Soma Capital via a couple friends who run companies that Soma had invested in prior. And my initial conversations with Soma were just about essentially raising it at some point, and that never happened immediately. And a couple months later, I had heard about this program, got back in touch. Pretty standard application, your typical questions about yourself and about the company. I think there's definitely an emphasis on who you are as a founder and an operator. But really, the way that they describe the program as being really intensive, all virtual, 100K investment, and just access and resources within the Soma community is what was so attractive to me.
Cool. Can you actually talk a little bit more about that admission process? Was it just like written application and then one interview and then acceptance, or what was that like?
It was over a year ago, so I'm trying to remember. I believe so. They had known me prior, which was helpful. After submitting the application, we definitely, I believe we had one additional conversation with a few more of their team members, and then later in I guess early October it was of last year's when they sent me the acceptance email.
Gotcha. And do you happen to remember any questions that maybe stood out during that interview call or prior to that interview call, or was it pretty standard?
There may have been. I want to say it was probably more of an update call, again, given that they had already known who I am. But I think more broadly, when you're talking to a VC firm or an accelerator, you should be prepared to talk about why you're the right founder or team to do this, and kind of what the market opportunity and solution looks like, and how big the company can become.
Yeah. Can you maybe share your own example of like what you shared with them about like your own team and why you were the right team to build this company?
I think the biggest thing for us has always been belief in our team. TicketRev is led by myself and my co-founder, JB, who's our CTO. And so a lot of it was just selling ourselves, our prior experience as founders and operators, and just ultimately explaining our concept. I think our industry specifically in event ticketing, people know that there's room for disruption and that it's something that consumers across the world are just frustrated with. And so kind of outlining why that exists and what could be done to help solve that is what we focused on.
Sweet. And then for the actual program, you mentioned some of the aspects of it. I saw on the website, there's fireside chats, there's dedicated programming, office hours of the Soma team. Can you just describe more in detail, I guess, like how you utilize the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's completely virtual. I think there may have been a couple arranged meetups, but much larger emphasis on virtual programming. The entire community is in Slack, so they really are doing their best to form that virtual community and at the beginning allow each founder to introduce themselves and things like that. Programming throughout the several months, founders within the Soma portfolio, other vendors and people with certain tips on hiring, raising funds, etc. And there's a schedule throughout the program, and different people from the Soma team are putting on workshops on raising a round and marketing conditions and things like that. My personal favorite was the office hours. The Soma team's incredibly knowledgeable, and so last year I think there was maybe 2 days a week for a certain set time window where they would be available to just kind of jump in on Zoom. And that's always really valuable, especially in the early stages of building a company, of random questions about how investors think or how I should be thinking about any sort of metric or whatever. It's really good to have investors who can share their perspective of what future investors may be thinking.
Nice. And maybe what was like the most valuable piece of advice that you received during those office hours? Or
I remember specifically one session with one of their team members named Willem. We went through basically like a cost to acquire a customer over lifetime value calculation, and kind of built out a spreadsheet that I continue to use today. So that was super helpful.
Nice. And then I was kind of curious for the programming. Who leads the programming? Is it mostly just like the partners speak on those topics, or are they bringing people in from their network? Or how does that work?
There's a couple partners at Soma who are responsible for kind of creating the program and being your point of contacts there.
Cool. And then I was kind of curious, like, what would be your feedback to the Soma team to make the program even more valuable? Like, was there anything missing from the program that you wish was there?
No, I don't think there's anything missing. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a little bit easier, just not for Soma specifically, but more broadly, to kind of build that community virtually. And so I had done easier to do it in person versus virtual. Obviously, given that founders are across the country or world, it's not really possible. I had done a Techstars program a few months after, and that was in person. And so the difference in kind of getting to know the other founders is a little bit different. But now there's no changes that I would make.
Yeah. How do they facilitate that remote community? You mentioned like everyone's in a Slack. Are they doing stuff to just like try to increase the number of collisions between people in the cohorts, or what are they doing?
Yeah, the first call was kind of like a introductory call. Everyone made a slide and shared who they were, what they're building, some fun facts, the traditional like orientation type call. Slack channel has a bunch of different, or Slack workspace has a bunch of different channels for asks, hiring, funding, all that type of stuff.
Cool. And then what happens on demo day? How do they structure that event?
Yeah, so the demos were all online, pre-recorded pitches, and they basically invite their kind of investor database, who's able to view the event online. They introduce each founder, play the recordings, and I believe they provide some sort of form or opt-in for the audience, and then they'll facilitate any introductions from the audience that are interested.
Nice. And I saw you were able to raise a round. Was a lot of the money in that round from that demo day, or was it raised afterwards?
Combination, before, during, and after. Soma has a really good network of VCs, not just from the event specifically, but more broadly, and just their kind of imprint on the VC and entrepreneurial community. And so Soma has a lot of resources that extend beyond just the program, of kind of like a co-investor list and things like that. So they're incredibly helpful in helping you discover opportunities, whether it's other VC firms or just other opportunities in general.
Cool. And then I saw on their website they invest, I think it's 100K into startups that are accepted in the program. Can you talk about like their terms of the investment and I guess how they handle future financing rounds?
Yeah, they try to invest in the most founder-friendly terms possible. For us last year, it was via an uncapped SAFE, which, for people who aren't familiar with a SAFE, is essentially just an agreement to for them to invest 100K, and it converts at a valuation that's later determined in a future round. It's, in my opinion, the best situation for founders. because the valuation's a bit delayed, and they're giving you the money up front, obviously, and then the valuation at the next round. I haven't raised from them since. We haven't, our most recent round was that round. So can't really speak on future financing.
Gotcha. And then I was reading like initial blog posts from this program, and I think it was initially for student founders to start, but I think they went away from that, and now anyone can participate. Were most of the founders in your program still students or recent grads, or I guess like what are the types of founders or startups that were in your program?
I don't remember exactly, so I don't want to speak on the exact age group, but generally a younger crowd. I was 24 at the time. I would say they were, maybe a few years older, a few years younger. Was about a year and a half out of school when I joined.
Gotcha. And then last two questions are advice related. I guess like what advice would you give to someone applying to the Soma Fellows program?
You need to be really vulnerable in your application, and I think that goes for any type of program application. Show who you are and what's unique about you. At the end of the day, like business models and visions are going to change, and so a big part of early stage investing is choosing the right founding team that can actually make things happen. So outline a vision of why you are able to build this company uniquely to anyone else.
Cool. And then I guess like what advice would you give to a founder who's accepted into the program to just like make the most out of it?
Take advantage of everything that the program has to offer. You get out what you put into it. Entrepreneurship and especially this network is very relationship based. And so just getting accepted doesn't equal success, but rather utilizing what the program has to offer is what's going to equal success.
Cool. Yeah, really like that advice. And then last thing is like, is there anything I didn't ask about that you think is important to know for someone considering this program?
No, not necessarily. I believe you have to be building something technical. So it's not necessarily like a consumer packaged goods or e-commerce type program. But they're very responsive for people who have questions.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thanks, Jason, for joining me today.
Sure. Thank you.